And then with Crazy Rich Asians, this was a book I never expected to get published. I never wanted it to be published. I was doing this really as a personal project for me, to really remember, to sort of write down the memories before they faded. And then with Crazy Rich Asians, this was a book I never expected to get published. I never wanted it to be published. I was doing this really as a personal project for me, to really remember, to sort of write down the memories before they faded, and my father was very sick at the time, and I would be driving him to his, radiation or chemotherapy appointments, and I would just very subtly just ask him stories as we drove, as we sat in traffic, and he would tell me these things, and I wanted to get a lot of it down on paper, but I never had any intention of having it published. And then one day, fast forward a year, I've been working on the book now, and he had since passed away. I was in Chicago. At this point, I was producing a book for Oprah Winfrey. So I produced the big book on her television show. It was just a big commemorative book that encapsulated her 25 years of television. And I was having dinner with the writer of the book, Deborah Davis, who has since become a really dear friend. She's a New York Times bestselling author. And she, we would put in all these hard days, at the Oprah Winfrey studio, going through the archives. And then at night, we were just exhausted. And she asked me over dinner one night, she said, so what are you doing? What do you do when you go back to your hotel room? Do you just collapse? And I told her, actually, I'm writing just a fun little novel for myself. That's how I'm sort of keeping myself entertained during the lull of the project. And she very kindly offered to read my book. She's like, well, when you're ready, if you want to read her, And she was one of the most successful writers I knew at that time. So I took her up on it. I sent her some pages at some point, and she told me later on, she normally dreads getting manuscripts from friends because she feels obligated to read them.
Correct.
I'm
sure you go through that a lot yourself.
Exactly. So she, I think she felt obligated, but she was very kind, but she had no expectations. And about a week after I sent her my manuscript, she sent an email to me, and the subject heading was no. N-O-O-O-O-O-O-O. There were like 10 O's. And I was like, okay, she hates it. And I clicked open the email, and she said, how can you do this to me? I ruined my Thanksgiving. I was supposed to cook for my family, but I couldn't cook because all I could do was read your manuscript. And you're not done, because at this point, the book was only 70% done. And she's like, you've left me on a cliffhanger. We are at Colin Araminta's wedding. What happens? And so I called her up, and she said, Kevin, you are onto something. I've never read about people like this in my life. And the way you write about it, the humor, the satire, the lavishness. She's like, Kevin, you have to get this published. And I said, no one would publish this. I mean, this is just a silly thing I'm doing. And, there's no market for this. No one's interested. And she pretty much forced me. She almost twisted my arm and made me go seek out an agent. And I very luckily, the first agent I showed it to loved it. And she has been my agent ever since. So to make a long story short, I got very lucky on my first try.
If you've enjoyed the conversation that you just heard, do subscribe to our channel for much more.